Happy New Year, everybody. I cannot wait to share these recipes with you today. I was trying to think about the new year. You know, it's still January, it's cold outside. We want some warm comfort food, but a lot of people are trying to kind of kick things off with a healthy inspiration for the year. So we're gonna make some really great hearty dishes out of all whole foods. And these dishes can be made gluten-free, they can be soy-free, so they can be very allergy-friendly and everybody-friendly. And to get started with our first dish, a cream of asparagus soup, the secret ingredient here is cauliflower. We're going to boil some cauliflower, and that's going to give us a really thick, creamy consistency without any dairy or tofu or anything like that. So to get started, have one big head of cauliflower, and we're just going to chop these up into small pieces. They don't have to be uniform. We're just going to try and break them down into small little chunks. And when you have them broken down, just throw them into a big soup pot. And we're going to do that with the whole head of cauliflower. Now we're going to add 4 cups of unsweetened almond milk, 2 teaspoons of onion powder. And this is such an awesome recipe. You can really do this with any kind of vegetable you like. If you don't like asparagus, try it with something else. There's a lot of great creamy cauliflower soup recipes online. That's kind of where I adapted this from. And this is just a half of a teaspoon of salt. So now take this pot and get it on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and then let it simmer for 10 minutes so the cauliflower will cook down. Now we're gonna cut the asparagus. So this is just one bunch of asparagus. Get them out, woo! All right, and when you're working with asparagus, they say the easiest thing to do so you're not eating that like tough woody stem part is just to hold them and snap them. And where they snap naturally, that is where you want to discard the end because that part's really tough and kind of chewy. And when you're cutting them, you just want to think about what size piece of asparagus would you feel comfortable with picking up with your soup spoon. So littler pieces than you might normally think are better. So our oven is at 350 degrees, and we're gonna take the asparagus and just throw them in a bowl to toss with a teaspoon of olive oil and a little pinch of salt, and we're gonna put them in the oven for 15 minutes or just until they start to get a little bit brown. So while the asparagus are roasting, the last thing we're gonna do is chop this onion and chop it as finely and as small as you can. And we're just gonna saute this in a small pan on the stove top with a teaspoon of olive oil and let it get just a little bit brown, kind of caramelize a little bit, get a little bit crunchy. And when that is done, all of our food should be done and we'll be ready to start to blend the soup. I just pulled the cauliflower off the stove and we are gonna get that in a blender. And this is gonna blend together so nicely. All right, so we'll pour this back in the pot and that is awesome. It's this pretty white, creamy color. Okay, now, to this, we're gonna add the roasted asparagus, which I have right here. And let me get those onions off the stove. And we're gonna put this back on the stove just so everything can heat together. And if you leave it on the stove on a low simmer, it will thicken up a little bit more. So if it's not quite thick enough, you can just cook it down a little bit. And you can just eat it as is, but if you want to add a little more flavor, I love this broth stuff. This is like that broth base. And I'm gonna add a half of a tablespoon, and that just kind of pumps everything up a little bit more. So that's optional. So I'm gonna get this mixed together and back on the stove, and we will be ready to serve. Okay, I have a little parsley garnish chopped and our soup is ready. We are ready to serve. So this is gonna make about 4 to 6 bowls. And this recipe is easily doubled if you wanna make more than that, and you may want to because it's delicious. So that is, oh, it's just so creamy and good. All right, and we'll top that with a little bit of parsley And our cream of asparagus soup with the special ingredient of cauliflower instead of cream is all set, so eat up and enjoy.